evening, gentlemen. Welcome back to the Wrong Side of the Wall, Season 1, Tossed Ashore. Tonight, Episode 2, The Memoirs of a Marauder. I'm very, very excited. We got lots and lots of cool stuff to go. And it's crazy to think about, but after tonight's session, we will be 1/3 of the way through this particular chapter of the narrative. So, but first things first, Kirk has volunteered graciously to recap last week's events, so the floor is yours, my friend.
Who's that? I'm Josef Reinhardt.
You're not getting out of it that way, buddy.
It's cool. Just check back on the stream to see what you said.
All right. Oh yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let me just get to the stream.
What was my summary?
All right. So, episode 1 of Wolf Ashore. We meet the crew of the Celine, which encompasses Captain Hale, myself, Josef Reinhardt, Jackdawfry. I have to make sure not to say that too fast, and Eagle Jormunson, who in their own way showed some flair and purpose aboard the ship, whether it was stabbing, chucking, cutting, or falling downstairs. We then transitioned into a sea battle between the pirate ship and this other lame thing called a ship, and we utterly destroyed them. A, by decapitating the captain's head, B, by throwing people off the ship, C, by knocking people off the planks, and D, by following a dog downstairs. It was very important. And it turns out that that dog was none other than Andre Serrano, the 5th person that is of import in this story that we're telling. And we proceeded to, after combat, figure out what this dog is, who this person is, and how they came aboard the ship. Long story short, turns out that they just kind of went poof, and here they were, like a genie. And we are now putting them to work because the captain feels that might as well. We got a big, strong dude. Why not? There were some conversations that were had between the captain, Andre Serrano, myself, and basically everybody was there. I think everybody was there about the fact that he's basically a werewolf and not a dog. And then we had another talk with Josef and Fry about things. And I think that's where we left off.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much. I think the to add on to that, the conversation between, obviously, with the captain and the others, of course, was discussing basically what to do with Entree and where he'd come from and how much of a story to believe and all of that, which Kirk mentioned. That was kind of the pivot point of the sort of latter half of the session. And then it's, after the conversation between Fry and Reinhardt, the very last moment was Hale on the deck of the ship the next morning as the sun rose, sort of prepping himself for the big one. So,
right, yeah.
Yes.
See, I got the cliff notes.
Exactly.
I didn't have Clippy to help me though, so I missed some text.
Notes, yeah.
Yeah. Hale hinted to Reinhardt and also sort of monologued to himself at the end that the big job, the loot of a lifetime, is just around the corner. That's why Hale has brought the Celine to this particular region of the sea in the first place. So we might learn more about that today on Wrong Side of the Wall, Tossed Ashore. Bum, bum, bum.
Dragon Ball Z? Wow.
Yeah, no, definitely not. So, players, the first thing that we are going to tackle tonight, and I think a significant chunk of our session tonight, will be focused around a few questions that I sent your way over this last week. Questions that I hope will help all of us to understand these new characters a little bit better. Now, Andre Serrano, we've gotten a chance to learn of, both through his interactions with Ghost and Face of the Future, as well as his own part in the story of Facing the Future. But of course, we've only had one session with Eagle, Fry, Reinhardt, and Hale at this point. So I sent you questions to help us learn more about their backstory, their motivations, and where they've come from, and all of that. So the point of this is not to, go on and on about every aspect of their background, right? Backstories should stay in the back, as I always say. But the point of these questions is to just bring us up to speed a little bit about where these people have come from. Because I think something that we all noticed going into session 1 is that we have characters here who are coming from very different countries, different nations, whatever, and quite possibly different walks of life. And so I think it'll be very interesting to explore how a very large, Viking man ended up with a swashbuckler, duelist from Daya's equivalent of Germany, which is Eisen, and so on and so forth. And how he came to own the Celine and that kind of thing. So we are going to actually start off with Thomas. We are going to start with Egil Jormunson.
That's me.
Be ready for that, Thomas. So I'm just going to read out the questions that I sent to everyone who wasn't Hale, just so everyone's on the same page. So I sent everybody 3 questions. The first question was, what made you choose a life of piracy? The second question was, how did you acquire... Oh, sorry, this is the questions to Hale, so that's that, right? The first question is the same. What made you choose a life of piracy? The second question, how did you encounter the Celine? And how did you first come aboard? And the third and final question, what's one thing Captain Hale said or did that earned him your respect and or fear? And of course, I left it open for you to discuss that with Chris if you so desired. So, like I said in the little preamble before we jumped into things, it is up to you whether you want to tackle these like answers to questions, or if you would prefer to sort of set a scene for us and give us a descriptive scene or some sort of dialogue. Just tell me what you need, and I'll be right there with you. So, Thomas, our first question, of course, is what made Egil Jormunson choose a life of piracy?
What a great question. Thank you so much for asking. I would like to start with that. So even as Egil reached his teenage years, it was pretty apparent that he was gifted with incredible size and strength. Like, while most of the other boys his age were still just boys, Egil was already, towering over some of the men in his village. Like, he was already one of the biggest people in his village, and he still had a few years of growth left in front of him. So even despite the fact that his home country, here we go, Vestimana Venyar, recently had a paradigm shift to a more mercantile society. Many of their old beliefs, pretty parallel to real life Viking beliefs of a warrior culture. They believe in the All-Father, basically Odin, our Odin. Despite the fact that they became a merchant society, a lot of these cultures still ran deeply inside of them. So there were a lot of expectations on Egil with his size and brutality to become like a great warrior. And not only did Egil embrace those expectations, he met them, left them in the dust. He was one of the most proficient warriors in all of the land. And that was despite his size even. He was just found he was a good warrior either way. He plied his trade as a bounty hunter, raider, even champion for some smaller tribal disputes. But eventually he found the land to get a little boring. He'd done it. He was looking for new adventures. Word of a bunch of wealthy traders looking for bodyguards, just muscle in general, had come around. And with his resume, as it were, he got a lot of offers to join merchant ships. So on his first voyage, he was on a ship called the Matisse, brimming with veteran sailors and enough goods to humble a king. They took out to sea on a pretty routine trip, there and back. But unfortunately, partway into the voyage, the wind took a turn. The waters became roiling waves. They buffeted the ship like a child's toy. And by the time the storm was over half the crew had been lost into the waters. Eagle, being so new to sailing, probably would have been one of them if he didn't have such ferocious might. And despite the fact that their crew complement was cut almost in half, their stores still began to run low. And because the trip was meant to be routine, they hadn't overstocked on food and water. And it was, if anything, sheer luck that the Métis found shore before the lack of provision claimed anyone. And despite Eagle's many years of combat, he hadn't really ever seen such a brutal display and decided to commit his life to the waters. Merchantry struck him as pretty dull. The rules and regulation of the Navy felt a little stifling, but piracy seemed like a vocation that would appreciate his talents for combat. And he set himself to find a crew that would take him on, realizing that the greatest battle he could ever fight would be surviving on the seas, they being the only foe to ever make him feel small. So that's the answer to why he turned to piracy.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom.
Ross.
Yeah, that was great. Wow, I love it. So I think that segues directly into question 2 then. So now we understand why Eagle came to piracy, but how did you encounter the Celine and first come aboard?
So Eagle actually didn't encounter the Celine as a boat the first time. He encountered parts of its crew. So during his early days searching for vessels to take him on, he would spend a lot of time in taverns by the docks, the standard haunting grounds for someone looking to find work on the sea. And after a few voyages with crews that Eagle found to be less than impressive, he found himself a free agent in one such tavern, the Siren's Song, in a small Castile port town. The crowds in the tavern were pretty thin that night, save a few hands looking for work, like Eagle, and a couple of small parties drinking heartily, but relatively quietly on the edges of the room. That wasn't really to last, though, as a large group of rowdy deckhands found their way into the Siren's Song, shattering the peace in the small alehouse in a manner that could only have been rivaled by the Inquisition. And despite the strident horde's entrance, the rest of the room stayed pretty civil until eventually one of the blackguards made a slight against one of the smaller parties, and in an instant the room became a tempest. And Eagle found himself awed by the combat prowess of the smaller party in the corner. Despite being outnumbered 5-1, they made short work of the inebriated deckhands. And before the brawl had ended, Eagle noticed one of the shiftier among the larger crew drawing a pistol and leveling it to kill. Before the guy could take the shot, though, Eagle wrapped one of his giant hands around the guy's neck, slammed his face into the bar, leaving a few teeth in the worn wood as a permanent fixture. And as the brawl came to a close, Eagle, impressed by their ferocity and skill, inquired about work with the smaller group, who introduced themselves as part of a crew of a ship called the Celine. In the many years since that night, Eagle has never found himself anything less than fulfilled by his voyages with the Celine.
Nice. Interesting.
Legends say if you go to that bar, you can still find the teeth set in the bar top.
True. They're still in there. Except the gold ones. The barkeep plucked those out.
Naturally.
I don't know about you, but I could have seen Thomas talking about Eagle all night long.
The embossed the dents that you made
Nathaniel,
in the bar
you get
top.
to.
It's true. So now what's interesting is that Eagle's kind of found his ideal career here. This is a man who's kind of shopped around a little bit and found his dream job.
Yeah, Eagle definitely got very lucky.
Yeah. So
who knows if those guys hadn't started a fight, he might have been some other ramshackle ship somewhere at the bottom of the ocean.
There we go. Then that brings us to our third and final question, and one that ties into our intrepid captain. What is something that Captain Hale has said or done that has earned him your respect and or fear?
Well, After about a year with the Celine, it was clear to Eagle that her crew were a cut above the most, and that was doubly so for the officers, the captain included in that category. And though he had respect for Captain Hale from day one, it wasn't until a particular disciplinary hearing that Eagle realized the captain regarded the sea the same way he did, as a challenge to be overcome, an enemy, that they were either going to defeat or die to. And so one night in the middle of a particularly long outset, with no planned landfall for another 2 weeks at best, a few crewmen decided to blow off some steam below the decks. It started with the opening of a barrel of fine rum they'd pilfered not many days ago, a punishable offense to begin with. But then drinking begat boasting, friction, until eventually a spark lit the proverbial keg. A circle was formed, and 2 crewmen bore down on each other, each looking to settle the dispute with fists. The duel was heated, neither able to get a leg up on the other, until eventually a throw that some of the circle have said would give the Allfather himself a shake sent one of the combatants through no less than 4 barrels of water, roughly half of the remaining supply. The sailors slept off the rum, but the captain, on discovering what had transpired, decided that, should he have his way, at least a couple of the offenders would sleep just a little bit longer. A trial was called, and Captain Calgrade Hale, the judge, but Captain Calgrade Hale was obviously the judge, but a fair jury was drawn randomly from lots. Even pirates have a code. After much deliberation and an indecisive jury, Captain Hale declared, with a fire in his voice that would make a man wish for the seafloor.
These rum sops decided that just one infraction of the rules wasn't enough. They let trifling matters come to blows, and in doing so endangered this voyage and every man aboard. Who here is ready to die for these whoresons and their squabble?
At this, the jury took a moment, murmured a little bit, and eventually found that they were guilty beyond any reasonable doubt, and they left them at the mercy of the captain. Eagle still remembers his words, burned into him this day.
Listen to me, lads. The ocean is a desert. Survival requires that every man work together. Sabotage puts every man here at risk. It is an unforgivable crime. Sorry. We'll try that one again.
The Western captain.
It's an unforgivable crime against the entire crew. As such, you 2 shall be hanged from the mast until dead, and 30 lashes for every one of you who partook of the crime. Be glad I'm a merciful man. I ought to make every man of you suffer the consequences of your crimes, and leave you all hanging out to dry from the yardarm.
And it was after that rather intense showing that Eagle knew he'd follow Captain Hale to the ends of the earth and beyond. For Hale knew what it meant to be constantly locked in a battle of life and death.
Wow. Excellent. That was amazing. Thank you, Thomas.
And thank you, Chris. That was very impromptu. I sent him that request a little too late, so I appreciate it.
Like a couple of minutes
No
ago.
worries.
Yeah. So very good. And thank you, Chris, for jumping in there. So,
Sorry for the slip part way through. It takes me a while to get into the voice. Yeah, but you didn't see last time where I'd step away from it for a bit and go a couple sentences, and then now I can do the text.
I step away from the mic to become a pirate.
You gotta figure out what your syllables and plosives sound like.
Your activation words are.
Yeah, I haven't got there yet, so hopefully by the time we're rounding out session 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there, right? Oh, this will be time. All right. Thank you so much, Thomas. That was detailed, in depth, and very fun to listen to.
Thank you.
We now turn over to Richard. I want to know more about Jackdawfry, the ship's doctor.
Absolutely.
So, rewinding back to question 1, what made Jackdawfry choose a life of piracy?
Jackdawfry did not choose a life of piracy. When you grow up in a small fishing town and have aspirations to do great things for the world, to help people, to do excellent work somewhere, doing something, you're going to follow that until the day that you die. So when he studied whatever version of medicine that they have back then, he got to be really good at cutting people's limbs off. So, when you get to be that good at this stuff, people notice. Years of practice happens. Suddenly, you get tapped by the crown. The crown says, look, you work for us. You'll never have to worry about anything ever again. You'll help our people. You'll help the king. And you'll never want for anything. And Fry said that that was possibly the best and the worst thing that could ever happen to him. Because he reached early on the peak, the pinnacle of what he could possibly do. But over time, he got incredibly bored by working with people who just got colds, or they crushed their finger in a door, or they burned themselves on the oven. There was no action, there was no excitement, there was no adventure. So he turned to drugs. The man instead turns to hard. He's a doctor. He has access to this stuff. He has the ability to get it from storms. He has the ability to get it from whatever apothecary exists on land at this time. And he's doing it to his patients, and he's like, well, I put them under with this, and it makes them feel really cool. What if I do a half dose and stay conscious? And that was enough for him to just, it clicked. And that level of addiction carried him through the rest of his tenure as a Doctor of the Crown. Unfortunately, one morning, as the unfortunate inevitability happens, you go into work completely off your rocker, toasted out of your mind, balls like to the wall high. And then you decide that just because somebody broke their foot doesn't mean it doesn't need to be amputated that day.
Oops.
He was publicly embarrassed, running from the people who wanted to put him into the stocks. And eventually they did catch him, and he was in there for quite a few days. Publicly embarrassed and wishing for just another drop of the stuff that keeps him going. It breaks a man. Having everything and hating it and losing it all can turn a man into a monster. But he didn't want to let that happen because he was still a doctor. So that all he did at that point, once he was freed from the stocks, he spent 100% of his time blasted out of his mind. He still had the connections. He still had the people to get him the stuff. He still had the money. At least now, there was no job to do. He was happy for the moment. And then I have to continue on after you to ask me the next one.
Okay. To be continued on disc 2.
Yeah, thank you. Please flip over to other side.
Yeah. Please insert the next tape. Okay. Then, very well. Question number 2. So, now we understand Jackdawfry's fall from grace quite clearly. Another victim of the drug, as it were. So, obviously, our next question, Richard. How did Jackdawfry encounter the Celine? And how did you first come aboard?
On one fateful night, as he is stumbling through the town, people still berating him and mocking him as he's just trying to exist in the life that he still has left. He decides to double down, as you've seen him on board already, and also have some rum at one of the local taverns by the water. And as he leaves, intoxicated, inebriated, he decides to take a long walk in order to clear his head, but doesn't realize the pier is about 20 feet shorter than he expected. Literally a long walk of a short pier. And climbing out of the water, drenched like a sea rat, a group of men are laughing at him over by one of the ships that are currently docked. And he comes over. He's high. He makes a big show of it. What are you laughing at me for? I don't deserve this kind of treatment. I used to be Doctor of the Crown. And then the one that looks like he's the leader of the bunch stops laughing and gives him a good eye up and down. Well, it looks like you've been hitting the bottle in more ways than one. Are you really a doctor? And Fry takes the next 10 minutes to go list off his accolades, making things up as he goes along, because what does he have to lose? And it seemed that this was the perfect time, because on the last voyage, somehow the captain lost a doctor. Who knows? Piracy. And was in fresh need of one. Of course, at that point, he's willing to oblige. And the captain made a point to say, at least make sure that I don't die in the future. Of which you can easily do. So you get... so Fry was drafted into this group, not realizing it was immediately going to be pirates or privateers, but living in this town that did not respect him was worse than getting disrespected by maybe like 20 regular people that he could also make sure can live or die. Their lives were in his hands, and he wanted to at least, take advantage of that a little bit. Giving him enough power, enough know-how, and enough wherewithal to continue to stay with the Celine for as long as he has.
Excellent. Thank you very much. A draft while drunk. Actually, very historical, because for those of you who have read some history of this era, that is how the various navies often did recruit people. They got them drunk and dragged them on the ship. So,
what are we doing? Where are we? We're in the middle of the ocean. Get a mop and start swabbing.
Yeah, and that was it. And you were in the Navy.
Welcome to the Navy.
Yeah.
Swabbing or swimming, your choice.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 3 days back to shore
that.
by boat. I don't know how long it's going to take you to swim.
Navy Captain Sir, do I get little booty shorts? Because I'm in the Navy now, please.
Of course you do. Standard issue. Do you want it in white or do you want it in cream?
I'd prefer pink, thank you.
Wash it with the red stuff.
All right. Question 3 then. So now, of course, you have been drafted onto the Celine, one way or the other. What's one thing Captain Hale has said or done that has earned him your respect and or fear?
I think I had touched on this a little bit last week as well. I have just a paragraph written.
Okay.
because I think it's very simple to sum this up. When you're performing a surgery on a man who has no clue whether or not he's going to live or die, and you're doing the best work you possibly can with the most meager amount of materials, the worst potential tools possible, things are rusty, things are not sanitized properly, you can get a man killed just by cutting on him in the wrong way. But you're not being judged for hitting the bottle. And you're not being judged for being doped up on what you should be giving your patient. So when you can save a life while living yours without any judgment, or at least without being lambasted publicly in the stocks for being a problem to the crown, that is the kind of thing that makes you respect a man. Plus, in the unlikely or whatever event that we do lose a man, we can just dump one overboard to attract food from time to time, and then we don't have to worry about it. So it's like a wash. We'll pick up another guy at the next thing, as long as it's not somebody important.
Mr. Fry, just get the job done. I don't give a fuck otherwise.
Exactly.
Is what you're going for.
You need to be a doctor. We need a doctor. Do your job or you're going overboard too. Simple. Understood.
So Fry respects Hale's very you do it or you don't do it attitude.
I mean,
right.
Pirates are going to be
drunk
or whatever. Yeah, they're going to be drunk or whatever anyway. What's the difference? If it doesn't get done, you're done anyway.
You're done anyways.
There's no stocks in the ocean.
Caught off a man's hand, you can just give him a hook.
We also know from your early life, as you told us, that Fry was very, very bored with the mundane doctor parts.
Yes.
So I'm sure there is, maybe not to the extent of Eagle, but there is, I'm sure a part of this that excites him as well. So
it's like I said,
it's running to people who have a sore tummy or something.
Exactly. Like if
got a sore
that's
stomach,
the case,
drink more rum.
Yeah, go. He slaps you on the back of the head and hands you a bottle. Probably the one that he is already drinking.
Yeah.
Get a second issue of grog for today. Good for you.
Don't be a baby. Get back upstairs, eat something and drink this. It'll be fine.
And then Billy wakes up dead the next day, and it turns out he had something awful. But who knows?
These things happen.
I would definitely wager that Fry wasn't dealing with too many bullet wounds before hitting the water. So
no, I will say like he is out of his league in terms of making sure that things are maybe done swiftly when they come to things that are life-threatening. But he's getting more and more experience doing that every day. I wonder why.
It's trial by fire, right?
Every 14th century doctor was so far out of their league that there's no point in even trying to measure it.
Well, see, I think with our bullet wounds, we have a saying where the doctor asks, "Is it above or below the bullet wound?" Because depending on the answer, he may just cut off your limb.
Yeah, there it is. So. If you're smart, if you know how Fry operates, you always say whatever answer saves your arm. So, all right. Thank you very much, Richard. That was very enlightening. I really enjoyed learning more about Fry. Now we turn our attention to Josef Reinhardt.
Wait, who's that?
The first mate of the Celine. So, Kirk, let's talk a little bit about Reinhardt. So, question number one, of course. What made Reinhardt choose a life of piracy?
Well, now that you say that, actually, I have a bit of a scene where it mixes all three of them together.
Nice, I love it.
I pulled it out of my ass about
Excellent.
5 minutes ago, so
I love it.
It does involve the captain.
Wave it around a bit, air it out.
Involves the captain? Okay.
Involves the captain.
All right, so set the scene for us.
Set the scene. Usually, like if you kind of think about like pirate ships and stuff like that, sometimes just like in Star Trek as well, the captain tends to have some dinner sometimes with the senior crew. In this case, his first mate. So that's kind of where we're starting out. Is we're kind of sitting after a nice meal, kind of drinking and reminiscing. Captain, you remember when we first met? How long ago was that? Like, I don't know, like at least a couple weeks, but well,
It's been a mite longer than that, lad. Why do you ask?
Well, because the funny thing is that I'd actually just come out of my duelist academy, and well, a lot younger than back then, and just kind of trying to prove myself. Wound up in this ridiculous port town, and got rung up into the Navy and all that shit.
Oh, aye. They shanghaied you well.
So here I am, this young, poor fool who doesn't know a single thing, very, very gullible. And then there's you, and there's your ship, and trying to remember, what was it that you said that day when we first met eyes?
You make it sound like a crossroom romance.
Oh, you know it.
I think it was more along the lines of hiring a few likely lads for an important job. I remember you being an impressionable young lad, so full of vim and vigor, ready to take the world by the throat and stab at one. Just the sort that was looking for a career change.
Yeah, that,
As it turned out, I was making a career change of my own. Needed a few hands aboard ship. Thought that actually your ship looked pretty good. Of course, the sailors would be on our side soon enough, overworked and underpaid as they were. But that captain of yours, well, he had to go.
Oh, yes, the captain. Oh, that was a glorious day. He wasn't good for anybody or anything. Oh my goodness, and oh, yeah, I still remember. It was just like, yeah, you bring me. Hold on, I need to do your voice, Captain. Bring me.
Oh dear.
No, that's not going to work. Basically, it was bring me the head of that Captain Vile Scum, and you got a place on this ship, and I don't know, there was just something about you.
Lad, I don't think I've ever said vile scum in my life, but I'll allow that it was probably something along those lines.
Perhaps, and, well, long story short, I obliged.
And with panache.
Who would have guessed that all those lessons, all that time, it actually felt better in person than it did in practice?
Lad, you were a man made for violence. And as it so happens, turns out you found the career made for you.
Yeah, man, that brings me back. But, I have to say, while it has been a while, you've kept your word. You've made a life of this.
My promise to all my men is simple, lad, and I know you know it well. If you stay true to the crew, and you stay true to me, I'll stay true in turn, and we'll all get rich.
And just like that day, today, regardless of what it is, you have my sword.
Just continue pointing it where I say, and all will be well.
Here, Captain. I raise my glass. Scene wipe.
Yeah.
Star wipe out.
So I hope that did answer it.
Love it. Yeah, you answered all 3 in 1. Very nice, Kirk. Thank you. The old "as you know" scene.
Pop that, cool. Christian. Kidding.
Me? Christian, how did you meet the cast and crew of the...
I don't know. You've been with us for so long.
Watch episode 1 of Top.
Watch episode 1.
Have to reminisce about 3 days ago.
Yeah. Remember when we all met for the first time?
Yes, I was thinking the same.
6 hours ago.
I remember it like it was a week ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is weird because it was less than a day.
Well, the most important thing is you didn't have pants on at the time.
Yeah, it's true.
You want to know my secret?
First line of the memoirs.
Afraid.
So I didn't have my pants on that day.
Yeah. That's right.
The second line is, you want to know my secret? I never wear pants.
Andres had a hell of a week. Pants are the least of his worries.
It's true. It's true.
And they're actually pantaloons now? Sorry.
It's got denim jeans.
Chris, Captain Hale is our last pirate officer to learn more about tonight. And so we turn to you. The first question's the same. The others are a little different for you, obviously. But we'll start with the first question, which is, of course, what made Hale choose a life of piracy?
Well, wasn't always Captain Hale. Once they called me Brigadier General Hale. I had command of a mixed unit, infantry, cavalry, greylists, and that'd be Avalon sorcerers for those not in the know. I served Avalon faithfully for 15 years, fighting their wars wherever and whenever I was ordered to. Now, many a border skirmish was there fought between Avalon and Montaigne. Little love lost, as they say. And one day, I was ordered to take a certain city. And when I'd done so, I was ordered to kill every man, woman, and child in the city and burn it to the ground as a message. I refused that order, not because there's something wrong about killing. Sometimes it needs to be done. But because it was a stupid order. There was nothing good to be accomplished by killing every man and woman and child in that city. No tactical goals achieved. And in fact, it was only going to make our campaign that much more difficult. What city would ever dare surrender to us when we just showed them what happens when you do? I tried to reason with my superior, and that landed me in chains. And that was the end of my military career. I still had a few friends in the army, though. Managed to make my escape easily enough. But I could never return home openly after that. I needed a new career.
That's it for question 1.
Thank you. Switch to the next tape.
Now press repeat.
Yeah. All right.
Press next track to hear.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so your second question is a little bit different. And it has to do with the Celine again. But obviously, being the captain, your question here is, how did you acquire the Celine from Castile?
Well now, after many years of service to Avalon, I'd amassed a small fortune. Not enough to buy quite as grand a ship as you might see at the top of the line. The military's best, but a decent one all the same. And so I went down to the Avalon shipyards, my cloak pulled tight. There were wanted posters up after all. Measured out my fortune, considered what I could obtain. And then I went around to the local taverns and hired a few likely lads and stole a ship of the line right out of the dock. Eventually, upgraded her a few times, met Mr. Reinhardt, and the rest is history.
Very nice. Excellent. Had your choice of many legally purchasable ships, and stole one you liked better.
What do you expect?
Yeah, exactly.
It does say pirate in the job description.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're gonna start a life of piracy, you may as well start big.
Well, as they say, you gotta steal a ship to make ship.
Mm.
Keep to the
Right.
stabbing, Mr. Reinhardt.
Your third question, again, is also a little bit differently, obviously, because I'm not going to ask you about Captain Hale. What impresses you about him, because that's you. Instead,
Captain Hale, let me speak of that paragon of all the virtues.
Man, Nathaniel, this session's running a little long. Chris has been talking about Captain Hale for 4 hours and why he's so great.
yeah,
Shut up! I'm still listening.
yeah.
It's the morning. I just woke up and I'm going to work, guys. Why are you still on this? Oh my god.
I'm happy to have that be the rest of the session.
So your question's a little bit differently, and here it is for you, Hale. From your point of view, what does each of your officers do that makes you inclined to keep them around?
Let's start at the top.
Yeah.
Mr. Reinhardt's got the right idea there. He's leashed violence. I like to keep him on a loose leash, too. A man always ready to take the right choice in the right situation. And on the open ocean, facing off against would-be competitors. The Navy on the one side, and those not wanting to be plundered today on the other. Mr. Reinhardt's a good right hand to have around. Mr. Fry, well, I should say Dr. Fry, and that really tells you all you need to know. Before Dr. Fry, we had a carpenter, and he's good enough at his job. He knows how to use a bone saw just as well as a wooden one. But if I had the choice, I'd prefer there to be a little less screaming aboard. And Dr. Fry pulls that off well enough for my purposes. As for Jormunson, everything else that those two aren't good at, he is. The boy can count. The boy knows his letters. The boy's able to put 2 and 2 together and not end up with 9. He's able to be everything a quartermaster ought to. And toss 3 men overboard with one hand. It doesn't get much better than that.
Very nice. Very nice.
Am I illiterate? Is that what you're telling me?
Mr. Fry, I believe you can read, but I wouldn't trust you to read straight.
Fry is great at counting. 1 rail of cocaine. 2 rail of
And what about our cameo character, Ambrose Teague, our carpenter?
Ah, yes. As for Mr. Teague, well, I don't have to send him too many limbs to be sawed off. Don't know how he'd handle that. Probably with a smile. Which is a bit of a problem, honestly. But besides that, he's a damn good carpenter. A boat needs to be whole above the waterline and below. And every time we go into battle, well, it seems that they're just intent on filling us full of little holes. Can't be having with that. That's Mr. Teague's job to fix.
Very nice. Very nice. So, a very pragmatic man, I think we're learning from Hale. So,
every man has a job to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, they don't get to drink.
Exactly. So, actually, I want to point out, and I'll point out a lot of things about last session because I really think it was just an absolute slam dunk. But Ian Gill said something that I think played in really nicely, where when he was showing Andre his lice-ridden cot there, he was saying, I don't know how long you're going to be able to rest. The captain doesn't like people on a ship who don't work or aren't in chains. So I really liked that line. And I think we've gotten a clearer picture of that. Hale is very much a man who expects, unless you're locked up as a prisoner, you're doing something useful on this ship or you're in the water.
Oh, the prisoners are doing useful things too, either by being prisoners or by working the bilges.
I will say, the Celine has the cleanest brig I have ever.
I've ever laid us upon, yeah. So, you also have his ballasts.
We need to ride a little lighter in the water, Mr. Reinhardt. Would you mind casting off some ballast?
Very cool. All right, we are armed with one of the most important things, and that is knowledge. We have gotten a chance to learn more about these officers aboard the ship. And now with that knowledge, we can move forward. We are going to take our break a little bit earlier than normal, just because I think this is a natural pause here. It's 25 to 9. We'll be back at 8:45. And we shall learn about the big one.
Excellent.
I'll see you then. We are moving into Act 2 of tonight's episode. Act 2.
Scary.
And what I want to do here is I want to give us a look at sort of a day in the life, or as Chris said during the break, a life in the day of the officers aboard the Celine. And sort of just what a day might look like from rise to bed kind of a thing. What are your duties on the ship? Who is it that you might run into on an ordinary day upon the sea? So when I say a day in life, I'm talking about this isn't a day where we're hitting a port or we're raiding a man of war or something like that. This is we're out in the lonely sea, but things still need to get done. What needs to get done? What would be something that might happen or whatever. So feel free to have a little bit of fun with what that might look like. And I'm going to end on you, Andre, and we're going to talk about a little bit about what Andre Serrano has been doing it's been about 2 days now, these last 2 days or so, to kind of fit in, basically. So be ready with that. We're going to come to you at the end. And to give everybody context so you don't pick a random day from, 20 years ago or something like that, the day in between you fighting off the rival pirates, which obviously was last week, and the scene that we were leading to with Hale talking about the quote-unquote big one, there's a full day in between. So this is the day we are walking ourselves through, just for context, so that one of you doesn't do and this day happened 5 years ago. Right? It's as it is
was
right
my
now.
coolest day.
Yeah. So feel free as well to talk about maybe how you avoid or not avoid Andre, given that he's now been sort of thrown onto the ship in some way. So I'd like to go in the same order we did for the pirate questions. So I'm going to start with you, Thomas. And this doesn't need to be super long. Just a brief sort of overview of what this day might look like for Eagle, from the moment he rises to the moment he puts his head back in his cot.
Yeah, Eagle's Day always starts with quick check of all of the holds. Making sure that nothing went missing during the night, at least as best he can on any given day. Helping the chefs prepare rations for the first meal of the day. Making sure everything gets split up appropriately. After that meal, he would go down and move anything around that needs to be moved around. And then basically what happens next is dependent on what's happened the past few days. So on this day, he would be spending a bit more time in the holds because they just took down another ship, which they plundered, and everything that got plundered needed to be organized, taken care of, and then found a place for. On a day where they hadn't plundered recently, he would, depending on what was going on that day, he would be off somewhere else. Most days he would probably be helping Ambrose Teague. Eagle is also quite a handy person, so he would be affecting repairs to the ship as need be. On a day with a bit more inclement weather, where a bit more heave-ho might be necessary, he would be on the main decks, helping with ropes and holding things tight. I think that would be, traditionally his day.
Okay, excellent. And do you make a point? Let's talk a little bit about your interactions with Andre just over the last 24 hours. Have you made any point, outside of showing him the cot and stuff like that, have you made any point of coming to him, approaching him in any way?
I was not left in charge of him by the captain.
Mm-hmm.
So unless I was, unless we were interacting in a duty that was given to him, or I saw him doing something wrong, I wouldn't be, trying. I wouldn't be cold to him or anything, but I wouldn't be like going out of my way to find him or
let's
interact.
go and
right? Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Mr. Fry, what does a day in the life look like for you?
Well, there's always making sure that my stock of medical equipment is always topped up. And if it is topped up, you got to take a little bit off the top, don't you? The worst thing medication can do is be fresh. So you gotta test it. There's that, but there's also other duties. I think since I have a habit of this stuff, I think Fry would from time to time help out in the galley.
Yes.
as Richard the player puts in every single character he ever makes, that they know how to cook in some way.
Right.
I think he would do that. Maybe a couple days of the week he might help out a little bit with some larger potential things. And then wherever he's kind of needed, because a doctor isn't needed 100% of the time to be a doctor. It's more so the places that need holes to be filled. So if our carpenter needs help putting the ship back together, he's helping doing that. If there is something that needs to get moved from top deck to underneath for storage, he'll help out Eagle and quartermaster duties. If there are bodies that need to be thrown overboard, their bodies will be thrown overboard. Prisoner check, I think, is also on there. Well, not just checking prisoners, but making sure that anybody on the ship, from prisoners who would receive their lashes or whatever to crewmen who would also receive their lashes or whatever, are at least in some capacity taken care of medically. If not wrapped up, then at least they're not dirty. A washing at best.
Yes.
But outside of that, care helping take care of the ship in the places that he needs to when he's also not doing his own duties around medical related. I would think.
Understood. Thank you. Keeping yourself busy, in other words. If there is an immediate medical issue, just making sure that you're still useful.
Just because the doctor does an important job doesn't mean he gets to slack off when he's not doing that important job.
Yes. No, I would definitely expect that from Hale. It doesn't matter. You keep yourself busy. So, all right. And then Reinhardt, what does a day in the life look like for you? Using this particular day as an example.
Well, Mr. Narrator, it's weird that you ask me that because, well, when I get up in the morning, I do my daily stabbing exercises, just slash here, slash there, and stabbing into, some meat sheaths with my sword. And then, I just order people around. Captain tells me what to do, and I tell the people what to do, and then I do it.
Okay. Yes, makes sense. You mentioned stabbing exercises. Obviously, you continue to stay in shape. Whereabouts do you do that? Do you do that in your quarters? Do you go up onto the top deck and do that in the open air? Whereabouts would you do that?
Well, there's only one place you can do that, and that's on the main deck.
Nice. Yeah.
It also provides a good obstacle course, and sometimes people pick up on a few things here and there, and if they accidentally get stabbed in practice, well, that's their fault, not mine.
I was going to say, it frequently leads to more work for Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Sorry, Dr. Fry, apologies.
Yes.
And it's a funny thing, too, because the sword I use isn't really meant for stabbing. It's meant for slashing, but somehow I still manage it.
Nice. You would definitely be the one to know that. It's like, technically, actually, this is a slashing sword. Very good.
Cavalry saber.
Captain Hale, what does a day in the life look like for you?
I will act a little bit of it out, if you don't mind.
Please.
All right. Captain Hale gets up when it's still dark and lights a candle in his stateroom, looking over a map. Looks to the stars out on the deck, working out exactly their position. And each day moves the mark that he's made on his map in his stateroom along accordingly, along with some suggestions of trajectories, a small table of mathematics scribbled on parchment below suggests he's working out the ration situation given their current course and speed. Once the dawn has shown its face, Captain Hale's out on the deck, making sure that Mr. Reinhardt isn't stabbing too many people, because we only have the one doctor to go around.
Sometimes 4.
Mr. Reinhardt. In good form today, I see.
Oh, yes, thank you, Captain. Thank you.
We have a busy day ahead of us.
We do. What do you got?
I've put the usual list together for you, but the summary is we need to put those prisoners to work. I didn't take on empty mouths out of the goodness of my heart.
Oh, never. Of course, Captain.
There's a lot of repairs to be done above the waterline. Mr. Teague can tell you where best to put the hands to work. As for the others, get 'em working in the bilges.
Yes. I'll see it done.
Excellent. They get a half grog ration at noon and another at dinner.
Something to look forward to. It's mighty generous. I'll pass that along.
Excellent. Tell me if you run into any discipline problems, but I'm sure you can handle it.
Oh, you know me better than myself, Captain.
Off with you then. Mr. Jormunson, Above deck yet?
Aye, Captain.
Good. I want you to do an inventory. I want to know exactly how many barrels of water, how much dried fruits, what we have in terms of meats. There's another week's voyage at least ahead of us before we hit our next goal. And landfall doesn't threaten till after that.
Understood, Captain. We were in good shape before we plundered that ship, and we're in even better shape now. I'll have a full count by noon.
I wouldn't expect anything less. Oh, where is that reprobate? Ah.
And Hale heads off down below decks to find Dr. Fry.
There you are, Doctor. Mixing your solution again, I see.
Actually, Captain, just, not on it right now. You don't have to believe me. Just making
That's
sure I
good.
got enough.
Not too much, I imagine. Don't want to let it go to waste, after all.
Worst thing you could do with medicine is keep it fresh.
I'll take your word on it, Doctor. I just wanted to check in on your patients, both those that we took on from the other ship and a certain dog man that I put under your capacity.
Right. Well, I'll be giving jobs out to Serrano whenever I have the opportunity to, whenever he bumps back into me again. But, far as I can tell, he's been staying out of at least trouble, staying out of sight, doing whatever work we're giving him. So he's not a loss. Another mouth to feed and nothing to come out of it. Not like these fucking rats down in the... I can hear you! Fucking prisoners.
I heard some screaming coming from the room. Had to do a little surgery, Doctor.
Okay, fine, you called me. I was a little bit on the sauce.
As long as you keep him alive or out of my hair, either way, it's good enough for me.
The screaming was me, just to clarify.
As long as you keep out of my hair as well, then, Dr. Fry. I'll be expecting to hear that all the prisoners are in good enough shape to work by the end of the day, or else we'll be off with them. I don't really care either way, but an extra pair of hands here and there would go a long way if you can make it happen.
I'll do my best, Captain.
Good. I don't expect anything less.
You won't get anything less.
See that it stays that way.
And the captain heads off. Think more of the same throughout the remainder of the day.
Very nice. Thank you, Chris. Very cool. Andre Serrano.
That's me.
Let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing since the events of the previous session. After we left you there, you've had, like I said, a full 24 hours before the next scene happens. And we've heard a little bit from Fry that he's been giving you a couple of odd jobs to do here and there and all of that. But let's hear it from your perspective. What's this day looked like for you? How was your sleep, first of all?
Andre's had a restless time. And I mean that not through just his sleep, but through every action and every thought has been hard to grasp for him. Not only the past 24 hours, the past 72 hours have been a huge change. He's a sheltered person. He's someone that doesn't stray far from what he's used to. So to be stuck on this ship, unable to go back to his comfort, has been certainly challenging for him. And the constant reminders that he's not at home. The constant sort of the swaying of the boat, the loud wind, the splashing of salt water in his face, and then the barking of commands at him.
Yes.
Pardon the language.
Mhm.
But coming from every which way, it's always no, that's not how you do it, and all that kind of stuff. And
Right.
he's learning, he's still getting it, but he's not really gotten it yet. It
Right.
hasn't clicked, and Andre isn't sure that it will.
Right.
There's one thought that's going through his mind that has sort of stayed a little bit permanent, and I'm sure he'll make that vocal very soon.
Mm. Right. Interesting. Have you attempted to reach out to anyone on the crew to like pull somebody aside and be like, whatever might come to mind in that regard, or have you just kind of kept your head down and moved about the day?
Andre doesn't really know who to go to first,
Right.
to discuss what he's thinking about. So he's waiting until something happens.
The opportunity presents itself.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
Fry has been the one mainly that has been, I guess, giving him tasks.
Yes.
That has been attending to him, seeing
Yes.
if the dog is doing his damn job.
Right.
But the guy's coked out of his mind, so Andre isn't sure that's the place he should turn to. He sees the doctor's face and he's like, no, that's not where I'll start, I think.
You'll regret it later.
Yeah. Sure.
You're stoned in a quarry. Very nice.
But he's, he has a good nose about him. He can sense intentions.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yes. As we established.
Yeah. He's starting to get it.
And that's probably helped you stay away from anyone who might want to instigate a problem or whatever as well. So.
Yeah, there have been a few things, but at any point that some sort of conflict starts to arise, it's usually either Fry is there to shoo them off, or
right.
Eagle is probably standing not too far away and sort of grunts a little something at them to get them off his back.
Right. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Then in that regard, I will say, because Andre, as the werewolves from your universe, can sense intention, sense emotion, that when you attempt, I guess, to sort of sniff it out, I think the biggest aura you probably gain from the ship in general is confidence.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge cocktail of all kinds of various emotions at various times. But there's a confidence amongst the crew. They're the terrors of the sea, and they know it. And for better or for worse. And that extends not just into the officers we met, but also some of the more rank and file guys. There's a sense that you get that they haven't really faced a defeat. And maybe I'm sure anyone on the ship could tell you about the one that got away or something like that. But like an actual defeat where they felt like they had to retreat for some reason, probably hasn't hit any of these gentlemen in a long time. And I think that's the stench, as it were, that probably hits Andre repeatedly as he ventures around the ship. So, besides all of the other things that should be obvious as we touched upon the emotional and backgrounds of some of the other characters. So.
Yeah. And I think if we were to put a certain, like, one action on this moment that we find ourselves in presently on the
Mhm.
ship, he's probably on his hands and knees scrubbing something.
Right.
So that if we're gonna find Andre anywhere, that's probably what he's been tasked to do.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's really efficient because his whole body is like one big brush. So
They put him on the
I-
mast and move it around.
That's actually a good point, though. That's actually a good point, though, Thomas. No, he has not transformed into a
Yes,
werewolf this
that was
whole
my next
time.
question.
yeah, I had a feeling.
Yeah. So I was gonna say outside of the outside of the initial scene and the outbursts you had in the captain's room, I'm assuming you stuck to being human the whole time.
Actually, I
Yeah.
do have a question, and I don't know if you would consider this, if it's relevant at all. Is there like talk amongst the lower ranks of the crew about like what this guy's deal is?
So
What's the scuttlebutt on this wolf man?
So, I'm sure there's talk, and I think for those amongst the officers who are more willing to mingle with the riffraff, as it were, I'm sure they've heard the talk. But no one's going to confront anyone about it. And like I said, Andre's got a good enough sixth sense to avoid any instigations.
Mm.
So,
Hey, Doc,
Mhm.
is there a dog on board? Blow it at your ass. Okay.
yeah, exactly, right? Like I think that would be the end of it. So, no one's gonna bother Reinhardt or Hale about it, and I think Fry and Jormunson, I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, will probably just brush it off or blow it off. So,
I
No.
don't know nothing about a dog. It's not
Yeah.
on my list.
exactly. And Andre's initial transformation was in the chaos of battle. So, if anyone else besides the few of you saw it, nobody said anything, and the other transformation
Keeping it to
was only on
themselves.
5 people in the room. So.
Mhm.
Exactly, keeping it to themselves, like whatever. I mean, I'm sure this crew sees some strange shit anyways, so whatever. Dog's not a big deal at the end of the day. So that being said, what is a big deal at the end of the day is this next job that Hale has just subtly hinted at to Mr. Reinhardt at this point. But we fast forward to the next day. So now it's been like 2.5 days since Andre first appeared. You're still about 5 days away from the target, as it were, for your own reference. But nevertheless, Hale has summoned his officers to whatever room you would normally do briefings in. I don't know if that's your quarters, Hale, or if you have a room set aside for that kind of thing.
This is a ship of the line, lad.
Mm.
We have plenty of rooms.
Excellent. So this is whatever room you and some of the officers to brief them on something. As
A
each of you-
large, stately room with a big map up on one wall and a big round table down the middle,
Mm.
made
Yes.
of quartz.
Very nice. As each of you walk in, you see that Hale has unfurled a map that he has sort of drawn out himself of this area. The Midnight Archipelago, remember, is called this universe's version of the Caribbean, basically. And at one end, he's got drawn the sort of northern jut of what would be the equivalent of South America. So that area of the planet, for those of you who need a reference. So he's got a sort of self-drawn map unfurled onto the table. Hale's made some markings on it, which I'm sure he will explain. None of this is too surprising. You've been here before when a big job needs to be coordinated well. One thing I imagine all of you respect about Hale, whether or not you know it, is Hale's sort of militaristic and efficient approach to these kinds of things. So, how many of you know his past as military man is irrelevant for this moment, but he certainly brings his experience to bear in these sort of situations. What is a surprise to each of you, though, is that Andre Serrano's presence was also requested. And so Fry and Serrano were the last two gentlemen to join the group. And then Fry promptly shuts the door as the two enter. So, Yeah. So that's probably the biggest surprise is that Andre has been asked to sit in on this conversation. But other than that,
That's right, Doctor. Close the door behind you. Mr. Serrano, if you would be so kind, sit aside for the moment. The rest of you gather round.
Aye, Cap.
As you can see, this is our current position, best as we can fix it from the stars. And this, and the captain points across the map to a point and taps on it with a feathered quill, is our target. One of the richest gold ships of Avalon ever to come through this part of the ocean. These, and he points to a number of marks made across the line, are the escorts. But due to some political realities of the situation, the escorts coming from Avalon leave off here. And some old contacts in Avalon of mine have made it clear that they don't get new escorts till here, a day later. And it's in between that we are going to hit it. The ship itself is well garrisoned. I expect we'll be fighting off and off the board. There might be some sorcery involved. This is a very rich ship. But it's nothing that we can't handle, and nothing we haven't handled before. Questions?
Sorcery don't bother me, Captain. This should
Mr.
be
Reinhardt.
as easy as the rest.
Mr. Reinhardt, I'll be looking to you to lead the charge as per usual. Any thoughts on who you'd like to take with you?
Sorry, Captain. What kind of sorcery are we talking about here?
Probably some conjured sorts. Think those big rock guys we faced. Got to be 3 or 4 months back now. Something along those lines. Maybe some sprites. We have all the countermeasures in the stores, though. You know how to use them.
I don't need those, Captain. I just
All
need
the
to
same.
find them.
I admire your confidence, Mr. Reinhardt. Give them to someone else, then, just in case.
Aye. Anyways, definitely need Eagle. And if the stories are what they say they are, then might need this this new crew.
We'll talk about that later. You can also have your pick of the rank and file, of course. No need to tell me who you want. Any man's yours. Just
Understood.
assemble your team.
And Eagle raises his hand.
Yes, Mr. Jormunson.
From a logistical standpoint, Captain, what size of ship are we talking here? If it's loaded for bear with treasure, were we planning on capturing it? Or...
This is an unusual ship, Mr. Jormunson. It's meant for carrying cargo, but it's a fast runner. There isn't much space aboard. It'll be riding low in the water. There's a good chance.
And Hale pauses for a moment before continuing as he taps the map.
That there'll be a spotter somewhere nearby that we don't know about, trying to get help to them sooner rather than later, even when they're in between escorts. We will need to hit them fast, take what we want, and then leave.
Understood. I'll clear a space in the holds. I suspect we shan't be scuttling anything we took from the previous ship. Your intel's looking as though our holds should manage.
It's gold, Mr. Jormunson. Heavy, but compact. We'll be fine.
Understood.
Any other questions? Good. Dr. Fry, get a few tables scrubbed. You know how these things tend to go.
Righto, Cap. Hopefully nobody's gonna lose a leg this time. Well, this time.
I wouldn't count on it. Prestige, out. I'll see you tomorrow. Mr. Serrano, stick around a moment. I'd like a word or two.
Yes, sir. Mr. Captain.
Out with you, I said. And
Gentlemen, I got a bottle down in my hold we can all share in preparation.
No need for the bottle, but I will take my lead. And Eagle stoops down to fit his way through the door.
More for me then.
And Hale waits until each of his officers have trailed out.
Well, Reinhardt said nothing. I'm gonna go drink.
Does Reinhardt leave as well?
Yes.
Okay. Then Hale and Serrano are alone in the room.
Hale walks over to the doors and pulls them shut, and Serrano hears a click. And Hale turns.
His eyes are wide.
Back around. So, Mr. Serrano, I hear you've been keeping busy aboard ship. I imagine the accommodations can't be quite what you're used to, though.
No, sir. Not what I'm used to. The ship is very nice, though.
I see you were brought up right, Mr. Serrano. And Hale walks over to a cabinet nearby, and you hear another click from inside of it, and the captain pulls out 2 large glasses and a container of some sort of dark alcohol, pours himself a finger's width, and the same in the other cup, places it on the quartz table, slides it across to where Serrano is. Go on.
The kid's not going to say no to that.
And the captain raises his glass, toasts Serrano, takes a sip.
Andre does the same. It's not great compared to what they have in their time. But Andre doesn't drink much anyway, so it tastes just as bad as the usual to him. Very good, sir.
Yes, a good boy. Now, to business. Although, I must admit, I'm a little curious. This world that you come from, the things that you're used to, must be very different.
Well, it's particularly interesting, sir. Not only because of where I come from, but I think the biggest difference is the time I come from.
I saw your reaction when I told you the year. Tell me a little bit about your world, Mr. Serrano. What's it like where you're from?
Well, it's hard to describe. The cities are bigger. The people are stupider? No, not stupider. In a way, stupider. But we have more. Everyone's rich. Most people, not everyone. People in the cities are rich. Not everyone in the city is. But I guess I'd say, for the most part, everyone's luckier. I don't know that that's true.
How many people dying of hunger, would you say? Dying of thirst? How many people die from bad water? Preventable disease, say?
Not as much as I'd say you in this time probably see.
And what about your own case, Mr. Serrano? You talked in generalities. Where did you live?
It was clean. It was simple and easy. He takes another sip. It was... I don't know. It's just beginning to set in, I suppose, that, you know, not only am I taking a step back from the nice world I had, but not that this world isn't nice, but, you know, it was, I'm worried that my friends are somewhere here or nowhere at all.
Ah, of course, your hero friends.
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Serrano, I understand your position. And obviously your parents brought you up nice. But you're being too polite. This world's a shithole, full of people making it shittier every day. Everyone trying to scrape as best they can, what little they can, so that they can live to do the same tomorrow. If it was I in your position, I'd be pretty eager to make it back home.
You're right. It does suck. It's terrible here, Captain.
Well, in that case, I doubt you're going to take my first offer, which was that we were going to strand you on a little island. Leave you there with enough water to see you through a little bit. You could probably figure things out. You're a big, strong boy. There'd be plenty of hunting. Enough fresh water. Maybe you could wait it out until another ship came by. Doesn't sound great, I know, but then you wouldn't have to participate in any criminal activity. Or I happen to know a few sorcerers still. From my old times in Avalon. The Glamour Isles, they call them. From which the Growlists come. And the deep magic. You're not the only one who's heard of other worlds out there, Mr. Serrano. It's not public knowledge, but it's known. I don't know if one of them is yours, but could be. But the sorcerers of the Glamour Isles don't see no one. Unless they can pay their way. If you understand me.
You know I have nothing here, Captain.
Yet. But every member of the crew gets a fair share of the booty. If they take their part in the work to get it. Now you strike me as a man of a certain set of skills. And if you can crush a man's head like a cantaloupe all the better.
So you want to use me to kill people?
I want to use you to accomplish the goals that you have in mind, Mr. Serrano. But it's a difficult question for a hero. So I'll put it before you now. Can you be a hero and a pirate? Or can you not?
Andre pushes away from the table a second and then comes in closer. I'm not sure I was a hero before, Captain. If it takes me home, you have yourself a deal.
Excellent.
And the captain drains his drink.
I guess Andre has to do the same.
Take it easy there, lad.
Yes, sir.
Glad to have you on board. Oh, and don't try and transform him for the next few hours. Drinks laced with wolfsbane. Don't know if it works the same on you as it does on the werewolves in our reality. But no point in taking any chances now that we understand one another, is there? Have a good day, Mr. Serrano. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Andre gets up, shaken. Shall I take my leave? He leaves.
Very nice. Very nice. Very, very nice. That's great. So I'm gonna follow that scene. A few days
with a better
later,
one.
a few days later, that's one.
Just keep going up.
With a few days pass. So 3 days have passed, and so we are less than 48 hours away from the job. The Celine has plotted a course that will take it far, far, far from prying eyes. There should be no chance that any of the escort ships or any of the men in their crow's nest should spot the Celine off. But we are close enough that in 2 days we will be able to strike at this treasure ship. Which we will call it for now. Who has the most reason to be up on the deck? I'm going to say it's you, Eagle, who notices this. It's midday, so let's say it's like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Not something you necessarily be able to track, but just for the player's reference, as we're sort of the early afternoon. The heat of the day, we'll call it. You're up on the deck, bringing a barrel down from into below, or whatever, moving a crate around, or ordering someone to stop slacking off and get back to work, whatever it may be. And as you pass one edge of the ship, you notice a small white bird has landed and perched on the railing on the outside of the ship. So, not too unusual. Even out here, lots and lots of seabirds can go miles and miles without having to land. But you don't recognize the species of this bird. And I think that's probably what gets you, makes you stop and pause and look at it for a second. Given, besides Hale, you are probably the one who's been on the sea the longest and the farthest and in the most strange scenarios. The idea that you found a seabird of some sort that you don't recognize is a little odd to you. The bird is, again, for real life reference, sort of albatross-like. It's definitely a very large bird. Not huge, but a bird of prey sized. smaller than albatross, maybe hawk or owl or falcon size, that kind of thing. And like I said, it's all white. Perfectly so. Even, white gulls and that tend to have patches of black and gray. This is like snow white. And seven dwarfs. No, and this is absolutely snow white. It glistens in its purity. It looks like a snowflake in a bird form. Its eyes have a very soft, serene sort of blue tint to them, and its beak is curved and sharp on one end. Definitely a bird meant to rend flesh, to tear it. And despite the fact that it has sort of the sleek body of something like a seagull, it's definitely got the talons and the beak of a raptor. And so it seems to be some sort of strange amalgamation of creature. And the creature simply stands motionless on the railing, completely fearless, as you sort of round the side and perhaps stop to look at it. And it just sort of cranes its neck sideways for a moment and stares at you.
And okay, so I know, like you said, obviously there are a lot of seabirds that can go miles and miles without needing to land. But in spite of that, I am curious, how close are we to land? You said we're 2 days out from the route the ship is taking, but where are we compared to land?
Even when you hit the ship, you'll still be days and days out from somewhere a ship could dock. So, in terms of what, rocky crag this bird might call home, that's impossible to say.
All right. I suppose I would lower my hand and see if I would lower my hand kind of like this, see if the bird is inclined to jump onto my arm. It seems pretty docile. It's not afraid of me, and I'm huge. So I'm wondering if this bird is already trained or something to that effect. So I'm curious to see if it's gonna, come to me, ignore me, what the deal is.
Right. Do you approach the bird and reach out your hand, or you just pulled out your hand where you're standing right now?
I would approach close enough that it would still need to jump, but probably not use its wings.
Right.
I'm not gonna touch it.
Right.
But I will get close-ish.
Right. The bird doesn't move at all as you approach. It simply just stares at you, and as you close distance, it again, doesn't make a motion. It doesn't shirk back. It doesn't sort of shimmy to one side like you might expect a bird. Even one familiar with people might. If you walk downtown Toronto, the doves don't care, but they're still going to shimmy a little bit if someone walks past them. This bird does nothing. It just stares at your hand, then back into your eyes. You really get the sense that it's making eye contact with you, as opposed to just looking past you like many animals do. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, and there's a sense that the bird is aware of what it's looking at. If that makes any sense to you.
I think that Eagle's gonna try and grab it by the neck, not kill it, but he does want to make sure it doesn't fly away. The fact that it seems to be making eye contact and knows what it's looking at kind of freaks Eagle out. He's worried about some kind of Yogg sorcery.
Right. The ship's hit with a wave on one side. Doesn't throw a man like you off balance, but probably makes you turn your head to one side. And as you cast your gaze up towards the sky, you see a sort of one huge, long, sort of black cloud start to make its way across the sky, and everyone on the ship, unless you're deep below deck, hears the call of the man in the eagle's nest. Captain, there's a storm a-coming!
Is the cloud moving in a weird way?
No. Obviously the wind has picked up quite suddenly, but for a storm of this nature, the cloud is moving as you might expect.
I would like to make a notice check to see if there's anything unusual aside from this being like a single cloud on its own in the middle of nowhere. That's weird. I would like to make a notice check on this cloud.
Hey, please do. Andre, I'm also going to ask for a wits plus notice check from you as well, regardless of where you might be at this moment.
Okay.
So both of you can make a wits plus notice check.
Just checking if I have anything other than what I got, which I don't.
Get me on board with a spyglass.
Okay. I have a success, but just the one.
Just the one. Okay.
Terrible.
Nathaniel, I have my advantage for keen senses, which, when performing a notice check, results are modified by supernatural hearing.
Yes.
And smelling.
Yep. Absolutely.
So when I roll that, I just modify it somehow?
You don't modify it, just give me the results and I'll tell you what that means.
Sure.
Also get a 15. Okay. Not great from either of you, just the same, like just the basic success. There's something that doesn't sit right with you, Eagle. The cloud and the wind picked up pretty fast. I mean, you've been a man of the sea for a long time, most of your life. You know that storms can literally come from nowhere sometimes. And you probably wouldn't have even given it a thought, except that you've just had a staring contest with a bird. So it just kind of gives you, I mean, like the barest of heebie-jeebies, maybe. But that's all you really get out of that. Andre, you're probably still below deck somewhere, wandering around, trying to make yourself busy. And you suddenly stop in place. There's a sense, it feels pretty intense. Like you've heard a gunshot down the street, kind of thing. Not necessarily meant for you, but you were close enough, and if you had been a street over, who knows? You know what I mean? Like that kind of sensation. Just something bad has happened, something bad is coming, and you're pretty close to it. And gives you a pretty sort of mean, sort of, tingle in the back of your throat, shiver down your spine kind of feel.
Yeah, if I had my tail on me right now, it would be pointed.
It'd be pointed, your ears would be back, that kind of thing. And within another few moments, regardless of where each of you are, a storm has overtaken the Celine. The wind and the waves crash and send the ship rocking to and fro. Lightning streaks down from the cloud. And then comes the rain. And boy, does it pour in buckets.
Every man to his ropes. Bring the trysail up. Mainsail down. Move!
Can I get a... What do I want from you, Hale? I want panache plus convince.
Panache plus convince. All right.
Please. And then I would like each of you, Andre included, to tell me how we will assist the Celine in weathering this storm.
We're gonna go same order as last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, we'll consider this sort of a combat of sorts. So I'm going to have everyone declare what they're going to do, and then I'll have them roll. Chris can roll because I've already asked him to roll, but everyone else I'd like you to declare what you're doing, and then we'll roll in the same sequence.
What order do you want us to declare?
So Reinhardt, Jormunson, Fry, and then Serrano.
So you said what we are planning on doing to weather the storm?
Yeah, or help the ship weather the storm, or whatever. So.
Good question. I do my best to organize, but also I'm pretty agile, so I try and help get the
Fast.
sails up.
Okay.
Maybe. So basically, I want to try and like climb up the main mast and try and be on like the poles up top to try and get the sails coming back up and all that.
Right. Help with the rigging, as it were.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds like finesse plus athletics. Or finesse plus... Actually, you know what? This is going to be finesse plus sailing, please.
It's a good thing I have a dot in that.
Jormunson.
Eagle's going to be doing much the same, but rather than going up to do it, by this point on the ship, Eagle being the largest, he knows which ropes are the most difficult ropes to pull in inclement weather. He immediately goes for the ropes that need the most.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just going to try and get either the trysail up or the mainsail down.
Right.
Whichever is more pressing.
Right, gotcha. Okay, that...
Definitely mainsail down.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a storm
I
could
figured
snap
that
the
was
mast.
it.
Okay, that is also sailing, but I'm going to ask you to use brawn, please.
Excellent. Would I use large for this?
Yep. Pulling ropes definitely would be helpful.
You are a large boy.
Fry.
Fry is going to top up, and then he is going to bail faster than he ever has before.
Okay.
With the power of drugs, the speed of 10 men.
Just to clarify, for everyone's sake, I'm assuming, anyways, when Richard mentions he's bailing, he's taking buckets and taking water back off the ship, not that he's leaving.
He jumps into the water.
I was going to say, I don't imagine the other type of bailing would be particularly useful at the moment.
I get into the ocean and I start fighting the water.
Start bailing.
You jump into the ocean, you grab a bucket, and you throw the water from the ocean onto the ship.
I go into the ocean to get the buckets out of there.
So you'll need 20 raises to avoid the consequences.
Oh, well,
So,
I hope that does fine.
Yeah. All right, so Balin, as fast as possible. Okay, so let's do...
I want to go to I don't know if it's on the deck. I don't know what would be worse if under the bilges are going. So maybe something is happening that's okay. Down, up might still be a little paramount because people are working up there. I think I will have gone. Up or down's not much of a difference if you're just bailing. Plus, up means you can throw it overboard and not somewhere in the ship. So upstairs and then to bail off the side of the boat.
Okay.
Bail in buckets, water off the side of the boat.
So finesse or resolve, your choice on the trait. Plus athletics, please. And then Serrano.
So, I mean, Andre still hasn't fully, he still doesn't even fully understand which side is port, which side is, So I'm gonna argue that he is trying to imitate as much as possible the rest of the crewmen.
Right.
I would say that potentially if Eagle saw him, Eagle would be busy. But if he saw him, he might give direction.
Right.
So
Right. The old like when you're driving in the dark on a road, you follow the car in front of you and hope they know where they're going, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So
cool.
whatever anyone else is doing, he's tuned in on and trying to imitate. Probably most likely either imitating whatever Fry is doing or Eagle.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Fry or Eagle. Okay, so I want wits because you're trying to kind of follow along with what's going on, and athletics. Wits and athletics, please.
Okay.
Use that sort of as the generic physical actions. Okay, so that's everyone's declarations. So you can go ahead and... Okay, 3 from Eagle. It takes a sailing risk.
What a terrible
17.
roll. Holy shit.
17. Oh, 4.
Hey.
4 ones.
Hey, Eagle,
Some
did
rough
you
stats.
remember
Athletics
that you
is
have good
not a-
footing on a ship?
Yeah.
Everyone included their sea legs were applicable.
I didn't actually.
Hmm.
I don't have sea legs.
20.
Oh, well, not applicable then.
Yeah, bird legs. Yeah.
Correct.
Chicken legs.
No.
I love that.
Very nice. Oh, interesting. Okay. We have our performers here.
I mean,
Okay,
I figured it made sense. The doctor being one that would have issues with balance.
So, Hale, this is why your role is very special. What you got 2 raises. And the crew, of course, follows you without question. So now that you have seen everyone else's results, but without knowing exactly what the consequences versus successes are going to look like, what you may now do is you may give away your 2 raises to anyone you would like. You can give 1 to one person, 1 to the other. You can give 2 to one person.
All right.
Give them away to whoever you like based on the results you have seen.
A single man bailing a ship of this size isn't going to accomplish that much, although I applaud Fry for his efforts. I'm going to give my raises to Reinhardt and Jormunson.
Reinhardt and Jormunson? Okay. So that brings Reinhardt's result to 37. That brings Jormunson's result to 43. Okay, so we will go from most to fewest. So that means, Jormunson, you have 4 raises total now, thanks to Hale's inspiration. So you are grabbing onto the sail. You're obviously success, so the first raise goes to you, succeeding on your task. The storm, the wind, the waves, everything, the rain is making the deck treacherous, slippery, and hard for even someone like you to hold your footing. So the consequences here is that you could be in for a world of hurt. You're going to hold on to that rope for dear life, but how many things fly off the deck into your face, how many cuts and bruises you take, how much physical exertion you need to stay standing, will depend on how many raises you are willing to hold on to. Here's the trade-off. You can spend the remaining 3 raises to avoid the consequences. You won't take any harm as a result. However, if you spend 2 raises, then you can help steer the ship out of the storm quicker than it might have otherwise.
And can my extra raise be spent to help someone else? What does the 4th raise do if I choose to spend 2 to steer out faster?
The third one, the last remaining one, would be to mitigate some of the damage to you.
Okay. I will definitely take that one. I will pay 2 to get out faster and mitigate a slight amount of damage.
Okay. In that case, a crate comes flying and decks you in the chest. So I would like you to take 2 hits, please. Or 2 wounds.
Understood. Thank
you. However, your grip on the ropes manages to lead with, assumably, other crew member filling in the gaps, manages to turn the ship hard to port so that you can start steering the ship sharply to one side and get out from underneath the storm cloud.
And Eagle's just got rope burns and this rope is wrapped around his arm and there's just blood and rain pouring off him.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolute action shot here. And you can see the rope burns. You can see the little trickles of blood coming down your hands. You're absolutely drenched standing here pulling on the ropes.
Pulls the ropes and the ship turns.
Yeah. Okay.
The rope.
All right, excellent. Reinhardt's next. You have 3 raises. So one of them obviously goes towards your success. You have 2 left over. It takes 3 raises to avoid the physical exertion of being out in the storm. So you will take some of that damage. You can spend your 2 remaining raises to avoid most of the damage and mitigate most of it like Eagle just did. Or you can spend those 2 remaining raises to do basically the same thing, help the ship to steer even sharper out of this storm cloud and probably get out of it by the end of this round, within the next couple of seconds, moments. But if you do so, you're in for a world of hurt.
Question: wounds from last time.
Mm-hmm.
Have they been healed?
Everyone may heal 1 wound from last time.
Okay. I am going to use the 2 to mitigate the damage.
Okay. Very good. So same thing then. The perils of the wind and the rain start to take a toll on you. You hold fast and start guiding the ship out, though not as quick as it might have been. Take 2 wounds, please.
I thought I would only take 1.
Nope, because Eagle spent 2 and he still took 2 wounds.
Really? Oh, okay.
All right, it's only like a 10th of your health. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
I had 2.
Fry, you have just the 1.
17.
So you are able to start bailing out the water. However, you have no raises left over to avoid the physical toll that this starts to take on you. I'll give you 2 options. You can fall unconscious from the physical exertion, avoid any more damage, but take yourself out of this particular conflict. Or you can take 4 wounds and keep going.
Ooh, hell yeah, I'll do that. That puts me at 5.
Okay. Puts you at 5, so there's your first traumatic wound.
First traumatic wound.
Correct. I can't. Well,
Don't be so traumatic.
Question. You know what? I want it anyway. What does it do, Nathaniel?
So the thing with traumatic wounds is they actually give you bonuses as well as penalties. The first traumatic wound you take actually gives you an extra D10 to all of your rolls.
Does this?
Is it the first one or the second?
Is this automatic, or do I have to? Can I do a practice roll to check?
You'll have to add it. I think there's a little pop-up that says bonus or whatever.
Penalty?
It says penalty?
Oh,
there's
bonus.
No, there's a penalty one and then a bonus one.
I got it. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, okay. So that should add an extra die. So,
Oh, yeah.
so as long until
I had
you
1
heal
die plus 1. Yeah. Yes, there you go.
until you heal from that traumatic wound, which will require medical attention. You are 1 step closer to death, but you get to add an extra D10 as the adrenaline surges through you.
If only we had a
Rips
dog.
open that recently sewn up wound along your side there.
Yes.
It looks like you're gonna need to pay a visit to Lawrence again.
Yeah, he's gonna have to. He's gonna have to put me together.
Yeah.
Damn. But you know what? Makes for great storytelling.
Damn it, Lawrence.
Actually,
I'd rather keep going than be unconscious.
You know what?
Unconscious on a ship.
You know what?
Down.
I actually would like to activate my virtue.
Oh, okay.
When another hero takes wounds to prevent her from suffering those wounds, I can take 1 dramatic wound instead.
Oh, wow.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
I will take a dramatic wound instead of letting Mr. Fry take those.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
Eagle notices as Fry is bailing with like hunched over the edge of the ship. There is a barrel coming right toward the back of Fry, rolling up to him.
Yeah.
And luckily, there's just enough slack on this rope. The Eagle can't like get in the way to catch it, but he can with one arm have the rope, and in the other one just headbutt the barrel.
Right. Nice. Okay,
It
Fry?
explodes into 1,000 pieces.
Fry, you do not take any of the damage I just mentioned. Instead, Eagle takes the damage.
Okay, you have to take 4.
It says I take 1 dramatic wound instead, so I would take 5.
Yeah.
I just add 5 on and then make a dramatic wound because they're tied together, right?
You take as much as is required to take your first traumatic wound.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I take 3 then.
Yeah.
And then a dramatic one.
Yeah.
So, and Fry, you do not take any damage. So, there you go. Thank you. Wow, that's really cool.
Fry yells over the rain. What are you doing? You're keeping this thing pointed in the right direction. Don't worry about me.
Oh, I got hit by a box. I need you to sew me up later.
Fucking fine.
The fuck good are we without a doctor?
So,
I ask myself that every day.
Serrano, 3 raises from you, and you, although like you confessed, didn't know port from starboard, from aft, from stern, have found that Shore sort of natural instincts and, let's face it, super strength and speed have proven useful in keeping yourself intact despite the mad weather. You sort of follow suit, watching what Reinhardt's doing, watch what Jormunson's doing, Fry's doing. You grab on to what rigging you can. You take over when Jormunson jumps to save Fry. You push people out of the way who seem to be struggling and, grab bailing buckets yourself, whatever is necessary. And you begin to move around with the speed only someone of your supernatural origins could possess. Any of you who might have the
Good
wherewithal...
work, Mr. Serrano.
Like Hale, for example. Anyone who might have the wherewithal to see Serrano working will see very clearly that he is moving much faster than a human should be able to as he moves about doing stuff. However, your heroic efforts will not come without cost. I will offer you the same sort of deal. One of your raises goes towards succeeding, which means you have 2 left over. You can spend both of those 2 to mitigate most of the damage, most of the physical strain of the activities you're doing, or you can put those 2 towards getting this ship out of this storm faster, but you will be in for a world of hurt. For you.
I think probably Andre doesn't know what it takes to get a ship out of whatever this is faster. He doesn't know that that's what it takes. The more attention you pay to your surroundings, the faster you're going to get out of it. Mm-hmm. So probably I'll take the first option. Okay.
So take 2 wounds, please.
Mm-hmm.
As the physical strain starts to tax you. Very good. Okay. The ship at this point is coming towards the edge of the storm cloud. The wind continually pushing back from the ship. Again, most of you are sort of blinders on, zeroed in on getting the ship to safety. But maybe it'll hit you afterwards. The storm seems to be actively trying to keep you within it. Which is maybe not a quality you always see. But the ship continues in a good direction, but it'll be at least a few more moments before the Celine is clear of danger. So, thank you. In our usual order, once more, considering that the Celine is so close to getting out of this storm, but not quite there, let's go back around one more time and see what we might be able to do to continue to help the ship. We'll go in the same order, starting with Hale. When I get to you, you can declare, I'm going to continue what I was already doing, which is totally fair, in which case roll the same thing. You'll need to declare something new if you want to change tax. So Hale, we'll start with you.
Hale is going to spend a hero point to bring my signature item into the scene.
Ooh.
Because he's pretty certain that sorcery is afoot here. So he's going to pull out his gold rune pistol, just aim it at the cloud above us, and shoot it.
Nice. Shoot the cloud. Okay.
Why didn't I think of that? Damn it.
Okay. I would like finesse plus aim, please.
Can do.
Okay.
And what does this get me? 2 bonus dice.
So remember, you don't roll until everyone's declared.
Yep.
I'll come back to you. Reinhardt.
I would like to batten down the hatches, Captain.
Mm.
I mean, narrator.
Yes. Rod Sterling, here's your please. Okay, so you're going to continue on what you were doing, basically?
Hatches and battening.
Sure.
Hatches.
That's what's...
Yeah.
That's the phrase, right?
Hatches and hattening.
Yep. Basically.
Okay.
You know what? I mean, my sea knowledge is about as good as yours, so...
Nautical knowledge, Nathaniel.
Nautical knowledge. There you go.
Cool.
Nautical. There we go.
Actually, bee knowledge.
I know the sides of a ship. I know what side should be up. I know which one is the main sail.
And you also know which side Klingons decloak off of.
That's right. So if there's any Klingons in this engagement, I know what
The
to show
port
up.
side.
Yeah.
Always
So-
the port bow.
Yeah. All right. So then that'll be another finesse plus sailing from Reinhardt when it comes to that.
And let me see. Yeah, I'm going to use up my hero point to get an extra die on that,
Okay. Duly noted.
since I don't have anything else to use it for.
Okay. Excellent. Keep in mind your hero points replenish at my discretion, not at the top of next
What?
session.
Oh,
Yep. You have to wait on the GM to give it back to you. You don't get one just every session.
well, thanks for telling me.
That's what I told
will not use it
Okay.
because knowledge was just told to me about things.
Yes, you're welcome. Yeah, I know there's other systems where the luck system or whatever it's called gets replenished each session, but the
Not
book
this
makes it
one.
clear that the GM gets to decide.
And there are a
So-
few conditions under which it happens.
Yeah.
Oh, because the book said it's every session.
So yes, but because of the nature
I
of
just looked it up actually at the top of this round because I was planning on spending one.
Oh, okay, we're good. Yeah, so that's what I thought. I'm pretty sure it was on my discretion. So there are ways that the player
Things like
can,
activating your hubris and so
Yeah.
on.
There are ways like that, or I can just give it out because you did something cool. Like that can happen as well, of course. Okay, so awesome. Jormunson.
You're muted, Thomas.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to make a specific roll. It's a little weird. I'm hoping to make a brawn and notice roll to keep holding the rope that I have. I'm not trying to steer us anymore, but I would like to also at the same time make a notice roll to see if that weird fucking bird is still there.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me. What did you say? Notice plus what?
Brawn and notice. The brawn because I want to keep holding the rope
Oh,
steady.
I see.
I'm not trying to
Okay.
steer anymore, but I
you
want to
just
at least
gotta
hold it.
yourself
hold
in
it-
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the notice roll to see if the bird's still there.
Right. Or that fucking bird, as you just said. Yes. Very good. Go for it.
Excellent. Thank you.
So your results will vary depending on how many races you get. We'll see. Fry.
Actually, since his life was just saved, I was thinking he would try and help hold the ropes for the sail.
Okay.
If Eagle needs help, which if he's taking hands off, that might be a good enough deal for him. So
Okay. So there is an assist mechanic where you can spend a hero point to give someone else 3 dice. But I'm assuming what you're saying is your action is you're going to jump in and
help him, yes.
out. You're not helping
Yes.
mechanically. You're helping in the context. Yes.
Yes.
In which case, I'm going to ask for brawn plus sailing.
Run
Unless-
and sailing.
Yes, please. And Serrano.
Andre's probably still going to continue doing what he was doing.
Understood.
But
So
we
that'll
roll for
be
wits and empathy.
that'll be wits plus athletics again. Then in that case,
Mhm.
Fair prom plus notice roll. Thomas has achieved one of his objectives this campaign, which was to do like an esoteric
Something
roll.
like that.
Yeah.
You got to roll panache and weaponry next.
Yeah. So I want to shoot him, but I want to shoot him with style.
Mhm.
I want to convince him to shoot himself.
I'm going to do a trick reload with this cannon.
Yeah. I'm gonna flip my gun in the air and reload it when it comes back down. Anyways, okay. So, with all that being said, everyone knows what you need to roll. So roll away, please.
Yeah, baby.
I don't
Holy
take any
crap.
balance penalties or bonuses now. Okay, I do get a success. Hell yeah.
Okay.
Holy
Okay.
shit, Thomas.
Jeez Louise. Holy crap.
Oh my god.
Jesus Murphy.
I'm assuming that a couple of these are some of your best stats then. Jesus.
Okay.
Pretty stacked round.
Guys, like completely fuck the storm.
Your eyes flex as you look at that bird. The muscles pop out.
Yeah. You develop heat vision spontaneously and kill the bird.
You kill it and cook it in one go.
And you know what? I actually didn't. I didn't roll large on this one either because I was. I'm not like doing a physical task anymore. I'm using my eyes.
Right. Okay, we are going to start.
But you
with
have
Hale.
large eyes, though.
Yeah.
Big old eyes.
Big old eyes. We do start with Hale. He did get 6 raises. Damn, he shoots the cloud.
Hey, when you shoot the cloud, go for broke.
Yeah, go for broke. So 1 raise goes immediately to the success. You have 5 raises to spend on dealing damage to the cloud, of course. However, as we all know, when you gaze into the cloud, the cloud gazes also.
Okay.
Chuck Norris?
So 3 raises to avoid a bolt of lightning, which will come a little too close to comfort to Hale.
Mhm.
And then use the remaining 2 to shoot the cloud. Or fuck the thunderbolt and use all 5 for the cloud.
Mm.
He charges his shot.
Well, we've always wondered what fucking a thunderbolt would be like, so one way to find out, I guess.
What the hell?
Give me a chance.
Thrust my pelvis forward and spend it all on killing the cloud.
I will say, I do love the implication that this guy's so fucking tuned that he could spend 3 to dodge a lightning bolt. Incredible. And he just chooses not to.
I saw it coming a long way away.
Yeah.
You have to give me the experience of putting your body back together.
Activate
promise-
hardcore mode?
I promise to keep you alive.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Pelvis out and thunderbolts taken.
A bullet flies out of Captain Hale's, some would say blessed, some would say cursed, gun that he keeps very close to himself. Hale is a private man anyways, but there's an unspoken rule 0 on board the Celine. No one touches Hale's pistol. As the shot leaves the pistol, there is a sort of like clap, like the sound of thunder itself, which is hard to distinguish for those who aren't close to Hale as he shoots because of the lightning storm that's going on. The bullet flies up in a perfectly straight trajectory and makes contact with the edge of the storm. The bullet sort of dissipates into it, and there's a flash of color and light and energy that sends the magically attuned Andre a very harsh shiver as he definitively senses a very strange magic at work. Probably enough that you kind of like, again, if you were wolf form, this would definitely be tail up, ears perked back, like growl kind of thing. You might even in your human form instinctively go a little bit just from the reflex of it. And as the shot sort of lights up the sky, in a few moments, streaks of sunlight start beaming through as the clouds begin to like separate. Less so like the storm is breaking up, and more so like someone is forcing it open. Like an axe murderer forcing open the door. The storm cloud is being wrenched. So.
Here's Haley.
Yes, exactly what I was thinking.
Well, when you said the axe murderer.
Yeah, I was trying. Do you want to get sued? And then the cloud sort of starts to break itself apart. However, before the cloud is sort of put to rest, a bolt of defiant lightning strikes down. Not on you. That would turn you into some crispy bits, but very close.
Tasty bits.
Close enough to throw you back and to set part of the deck on fire. The area around you, Hale, bursts into flames. So, first of all, I would like you to take a dramatic wound.
Done.
And now everyone else, this might be where the improvisation comes in for at least one or two of you. The top deck of the Celine has caught fire, and that fire is beginning to spread. So we briefly covered this last week, but one of the things in this system, because you declare before actions start being resolved, there is a system called improvising, where you can use the raises you just rolled, but apply them to a different kind of task. So I think the example I gave for Kirk, because I think it was Kirk who asked me, was you go to attack a guy, but the guy you went to attack is already dead. So now instead you're going to improvise and sneak away or whatever it is, or climb a rope or something like that. Right? You effectively use the stats you already rolled, but can now apply them to the new thing. The catch is it costs one extra raise to improvise. So basically one of your raises is just sort of eaten up by changing the action.
Unless you're me.
Unless you're you and you took that one advantage lets you not do that. Or rather, doesn't make you do that. So.
Well, depending on what I try to do, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, that's the results of that. The storm is now in the process of breaking up. It's no longer really a threat, but a new threat has emerged. Part of the Celine is on fire. So Eagle, you're next up because you have the highest number of raises. You can proceed with what you were going to do, which was spot out this bird. Remember, these are all happening simultaneously too, so like it's not like, and now the storm's suddenly over in 2 milliseconds and everything's fine. It will be over in a moment. But there's also a blaze going. So you can either continue with your action, which you will have 4 raises towards, or you can switch over and try to douse the flame, which you will have 3 raises towards. Because, well, we shoot up by improvising.
Okay, what I will do is I will still keep I still want to see if that bird is there. So I'm going to start with that. I would like to spend my hero point to assist Fry in putting out the fire.
All right, Richard, you have been gifted 3 dice. If you could go ahead and roll those 3d10s now.
Well, I changed what I was doing. I'm not putting out the fire anymore. My intention was to help you. If I'm now putting the fire out, I guess we're dropping everything then.
I'm assuming improvising was going to change that because like the storm is ending. So like
okay,
I don't need help with the rope anymore, right?
You're right. Correct.
It would be obvious to all of you now that the storm is starting to break.
Okay. What did I roll before?
Well, you can just roll 3d10s.
Just roll 3d10s, yeah.
14 now.
You have a 14, yeah. So just roll 3d10s off from the sidebar. Okay, so you got another 3d10. So 15 added to your...
one
14.
short.
Too bad. Okay, so that's 2.
But that's a successful improvise at the very least, so...
Yeah, exactly. One to succeed, 1 to improvise. So... nothing left over to block the consequences, but at least enough to do an improvised success. So
correct.
Okay. So there's your hero point to assist. You still have. Oh, and you're going to look at the bird, right? You told me that already. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And bird.
Yeah. And bird. The bird is gone.
No.
It has just gone. You switch from side to side. You look all around yourself to look for where this bird has gone. Like even if this bird took off like a rocket, you should see it like flapping or something. Like there's a storm going on. Like it should be struggling against the wind, right? But it's gone. It's vanished. Whether the only thing you can think of maybe, which seems weird, but the only way it might have escaped your view of just the horizon is that it went down, like it dived into the water.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing you think might have happened. So here's an opportunity, the reverse of a consequence. You can spend 2 raises to make your way carefully over to the rail of the ship and look over to see if the bird did indeed take a dive into the water. However, you also have to consider that there is still a physical tasking to it. The storm is breaking, but it is still raging for this moment, and so there will still be physical strain on you. As well, the fire could spread and potentially give you a little bit of a licking, just a kiss, just on the edge.
Right.
So, tough choice again. 2 raises to see if that damn bird did dive into the water. Your remaining 2 raises to mitigate any damage that might come your way. Or you can spend all 4 raises and completely dodge the damage.
I will check for the bird and mitigate.
Okay. So take 2 more wounds, please.
Understood.
Eagle, with a determination and strength, makes it over to the railing of the ship and takes a peek over. Nothing. Not nary a splash. This bird is just gone. You know the difference between a wave and a ripple from an animal.
Right.
Unless this thing became water, you do not think it dived down. So
Eagle furrows his brow, turns his back to the water, still keeping an eye around for that bird. He knows it might be around here somewhere, but he just starts looking around the deck to see how he might in the future perhaps help put this fire out. But that will be all from Eagle for the moment.
Yes. Okay, we turn now to Reinhardt. You're next up. You have 4 races, so you can continue. So obviously, you continue what you were doing, or you now are aware, of course, that there is a blaze on the deck.
Well, Mr. Narrator, I use logic against the storm and say there can't be a fire because it was raining.
Yes. Assumably, the rain will put it out eventually. But of course, despite what Hollywood has taught us, water does take its time in putting out flames, especially on wood. So the rain will do its job eventually, but you could help expedite and potentially keep people from harm and keep precious cargo from getting destroyed.
Well, we do actually have some things on board to help with this because water isn't, ironically, as readily available as you'd think it would be. So I try to quickly rush down and grab some of the fire blankets that we use to put out and smother fire.
Okay. Excellent. So
meaning I'm trying to improvise with athletics, maybe.
Yes, absolutely. So because of your advantage that I'm aware of, you do not need to spend an extra raise to improvise. Because you rolled, athletics. So 1 for this success, you have 3 left over. So I think this is a pretty simple, tough choice coin flip here, which I'm enjoying about the system. Your 3 raises can go towards putting out the flame quickly, effectively to the point that it will no longer be a threat. The scenario will basically be brought to an end. However, you're going to take a licking. or you can spend the 3 raises to keep yourself from getting scorched. But you'll probably need at least one more person to help you put the fire out completely.
Well, I do like getting the licking, but only from the ladies.
Right.
So I am pretty fast, so I think I'd avoid the flames.
He's
I think so.
fast.
Hmm.
Okay. Very good. So you managed to dance around the fire with an agility and grace, native to Reinhardt. And you get most of the flame out. You're probably going to need at least one more person to help you get it totally put out at this point. Very good, though. Also, hey, I appreciate you talking to the narrator in character voice. I don't know how much sense it makes, but I like it. At least for now. Okay, so next up...
Poor Mr.
would be-
Reinhardt. Always been a little unhinged.
Actually, Nathaniel, before we go to next up, quick
Yeah.
question for you.
Yes.
Does this apply because I let myself get partially caught on fire looking for a bird?
Relentless. You receive a hero point when you refuse to leave well enough alone or quit while you're ahead, and it gets you into trouble. Yeah, I like it.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, go for it.
Thank
Like I said, it's on you guys to keep track of your hubrises and virtues, but yeah, sounds good. So, yeah, you were finding that bird. It doesn't matter what happened. Come hell or high water, you were finding that bird.
Fire?
No.
Well, a
Well,
bird.
Mr. Narrator, I did try and solve this problem without sorcery, so does that also get me a hero point?
So,
I know every problem seems to be solvable that way.
let me think. Let me just read it.
Yeah, I feel like Kirk took a really powerful virtue if that's how it works.
Let me see if I can
No,
find
it's a suspicion, or it's a hubris.
Yeah, it's a hubris.
Hmm.
Okay. I'm gonna say in this case, no.
No, that's fine. I
I
obviously
know.
was stretching it.
I know it was a tongue-in-cheek joke, but because the wording is when you refuse to solve a problem, so I'm gonna say that this becomes relevant when you could solve it with sorcery and then choose not to. Because sorcery wasn't really an option for you here, it's not something you could have chosen.
Well, I could have used our magical blankets.
A magical fire vacuum. Magical water. Wait.
He spits on it.
His magical spit.
I piss on the water. Wait,
That's it. Wait a minute.
His magical piss.
Keeps it in a jar. Alright. Very good. So then next we go to Fry, because you had a 29, which beats Serrano's
29.
21. So you have 2. That is enough for an improvised success. So
Correct.
you could help in putting out the rest of the fire. You will take a licking.
Nom
I'll
nom
keep on
nom.
ticking.
You gotta love those lickings. They're good
Yeah,
for
I
chickens.
have to do it. Of course I
Alright.
am.
Alright. Right, you jump in to finish what Reinhardt started and put out the rest of the flames. However, you get scorched pretty bad along one arm.
Mhm.
2nd degree, maybe even 3rd degree burns. So, I'd like you to take 3, please.
That's a tasty licking, baby.
Tasty, especially since it's fry flavor.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness, boiled
Fry?
fry.
Fried fry.
Nice.
Don't
And-
eat this. It's full of drugs.
And Serrano, you don't have a chance or necessarily the need to act because in the next few moments the fire is put out and the storm breaks. And the sea
Okay.
returns to the calm that it was just a few moments ago. As if the storm had never happened. The only residual left over from the storm is the few cargo crates that got tossed around, the bad burn on Fry's arm, and a few scorch marks across the deck of the Celine.
Batten down those cargo pods. Whoever didn't rope those up is going to get a lash. Mr. Fry, see to yourself. And then the rest. Mr. Reinhardt, you doing all right?
Aye, Captain, just fine actually.
Mr. Jormunson, excellent work with the ropes.
Thank you, Captain. If I may, a word in private when you have a moment?
Of course. Mr. Serrano.
Yes, sir.
Good efforts for a first try. I'm expecting good things from you.
Thank you, Captain.
Now go help Mr. Fry see to the wounded.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
What are you all standing around for?
All right, form a line. I'll take care of myself first. I need about 15 minutes.
You hear some of the rank and file across the ship going, aye, aye, Captain, and sort of bustling about to get things
Eagle,
done.
you're first in line.
So, all right, very, very good. Richard, I'm going to come back to you at the top of next session to talk about like healing wounds and stuff like that, because traumatic
Sure.
wounds require actual medical rolls
Right.
for regular wounds, which go
That's
after.
hot.
So remind me if I don't
Mr.
mention.
Hale has to decide. Captain has to decide whether or not he's going to allow himself to be ministered to.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyone who took a traumatic wound, I will give you an opportunity to go and see the doctor at the top of next session. So just remind me if I don't remember, or might make a note of it somewhere.
Doctor.
We will scene wipe, though.
You're going to have to
to
give me a little info about what those are, just in case, where people got injured so that I can prep something.
Yeah, absolutely. We will scene wipe, though, to a quiet corner of the Celine, either above or below deck. Doesn't really matter. But Eagle indeed has found Hale's ear for a quiet moment. Hale still sort of, grasping at whatever's been wounded or scorched at this moment.
Hale stumps into his room, invites Eagle to come in and close the door behind him.
Yes, Mr. Jormunson.
He falls heavily into his chair.
What do you have to say?
First of all, I'd like to say very impressive with the gun and the taking of a lightning bolt. Definitely among the top 5 insane things I've ever seen on the open water.
I'll take that as a compliment, Miss Jormunson.
Obviously not why I've called for your ear. Right before the storm broke out, I noticed on one of the gunnels of the ship rather. It was actually on one of the lifeboats, unimportant. There was a strange seabird, the likes of which I've never seen in my decade plus on the water. And it was very large. It had a sort of prescience to it. Didn't seem afraid of me even when I approached it. And it seemed to be looking straight into my eyes, not, registering me as a unit, as it were.
Mr. Jormunson, from anybody else, I might be tempted to dismiss this, but I know you'd never bring something to me that wasn't pertinent. So thank you. I think it's pretty clear that was no normal storm. Someone's aware of us. Someone powerful. Keep your eyes open as we approach the prize. This won't be the last obstacle.
Understood. Would you like me to make note to look for strange birds with the men who take watch in the nest?
Tell the men to keep their eyes open for anything unusual. Chances are good it won't be a bird next time.
Understood, Captain.
Very cool.
And barring the captain stopping him, Eagle takes his leave.
Very good.
The captain, once Eagle has left the room, rips one leg of his pantaloons off and ties a tourniquet so that his still bleeding leg will hold on long enough for him to do something about it if he decides to.
No time for that right now.
And he goes over to his desk in his room and pulls the gold-plated bullet case out from his desk and reloads his gold rune pistol and puts it back in his bandolier.
Mm.
Then he goes and sits back down.
Now, whether to have Dr. Fry look at this or just die, not sure which is worse.
Nice. All right.
Florence.
A few of the crew of the Celine have taken a bit of a battering. The Celine itself, even, now bears a scar of the most recent encounter. But nothing is going to stop the Celine or Captain Hale and his crew from scoring the loot of a lifetime. That'll be episode 3 of Wrong Side of the Wall, Tossed Ashore, next week.
Wait, we're getting a loot? I thought we were having gold.
Yeah. Not that loot.
Do you have a name for the episode yet? And please tell me it's the big one.
I just said the loot of a lifetime.
Oh, the loot of a lifetime.
Yeah,
I thought that was just what we were aiming for. I didn't realize it was.
Yeah.
Make sure you please send me these episode names so that I can put them in the Twitch stream prior. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to mention at the end of every previous week what it is. So last week, Richard, if you remembered, I said next week will be the Memoirs of a Marauder.
Yes.
So you're not going to get a special message. You're just going to have to listen.
I have to tune into the end of the stream.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly. So next week, the Loot of a Lifetime, session 3 of Tossed Ashore, and it's going to be a doozy. So can't
Hope
wait.
you enjoyed it.
For the time being, that's it for me tonight. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Hope you had a good time.
Like
Pleasure as always.
Wonderful session as always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woohoo! So, without further ado, that's Tossed Ashore episode 2, and we'll be back on the high seas for more next week. Until then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.